Weiß Bescheid. Entiendo.
Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Yes, we are live inside the Digipreneur FM podcast. And it's your boy, Mr. Karan Rose, coming to you again with another episode. This is episode number 3, folks. The feedback, the energy from you guys has been absolutely amazing. It's like when you start these ventures out, again, you never know how it's going to be received. You never know what the feedback is going to be like, but you dive in head first, you put out your all, you give it your energy, and you really just hope for the best. And so far, I couldn't have asked for a better response than what you guys and gals have given me thus far, with respects to the podcast. So episode 3, what do we have today? Today, I want to dive into taking a passion and turning it into a business. Taking a passion and turning it into a business. Now, I really believe that the internet has really leveled the playing field for us. And there is a market for almost any idea. And what happens is many times we sit back and we think, okay, well, we have these different passions, but, we don't know how we could turn it into something that can generate income and then ultimately generate enough income for it to sustain us as a business. It's one of the trickiest things because if you have this idea and you just dive into it, and then you would run to your community, maybe run to your friends and family. You try to do it within your community or within your city, and then you realize that nobody is taking you on. No one's taking you seriously. No one cares about your business. It's easy to get demotivated and to say, you know what, maybe I was wrong. This was dumb. There's just no place for this idea that I have. As much as you might be, uberly passionate about it, there might not be no place for it. However, because of the internet, because of the digital age, you have access to the worldwide community, and there may be a community for you out there. The hard part is just trying to find them and then learning how to tap into them. And a lot of times where people struggle is that they don't know how to go about doing that. And then again, they get demotivated in the process. But I really believe that in 2021 and moving forward, there is a place for everybody's passion. It now is up to you to figure out where is that community and how are you able to serve them. If it's through a physical product, are you able to tap into that community, engage with them, build an audience, but also deliver the physical product to that community? Because if you're right here in the Caribbean, do you know how to get your product to Russia? If your community for your passion is over there, do you know how to get it to Australia? If what you were offering is in the digital format, now it's a heck of a lot easier for you to get your product or service to people anywhere in the world because you remove the barrier of logistics and having to physically deliver a product. But now it's going to be about, do you know how to build a brand online? Do you know how the different social media platforms work? Do you know how to build your own platform so you can participate in e-commerce? Do you know how to deliver a digital product to your clientele? So there's definitely things to consider. But again, I believe that you can turn any passion into a business once you understand how to tap into the global markets and deliver your product or service, but also having the right mechanisms in place to build your community and be able to take payments. Now, one thing that stumps people as well, like maybe you are in a full-time job, maybe you have been, living life, you've been taking things as it comes, going with the flow, paying bills, you have the kids, you have the families, you really have had no time to sit down and think about what you are passionate about. And that's something that stumps a lot of people as well. I'm 34, and there's so many of my friends back home in Toronto that they've just been working since as long as they can remember. It's been from, going to school, jumping into full-time employment. They've never really had time to sit down and think about their passions. And it's crazy when you think about it. If you are one of those people that, you sit back and you're like, I really don't know what I'm passionate about. But that's a challenge that a lot of us are having these days. It was a challenge for me as well. And I have to give you a story, and that would kind of help you understand how I was able to figure out my passion. And I'm hoping that this story can kind of help you figure out, or at least get you thinking about what you may be passionate about. So back in Toronto, I had a dog. I had a nice, beautiful Rottweiler. The Rottweiler's name was Bronx. Bronx, I named him after the dog from Gargoyles. So if any of you guys are Gargoyles fans, that 90s cartoon, if you remember the dog that they had, his name was Bronx. And my dog was a Rottweiler, so I named him after that. So Bronx was a bit rowdy, puppy. Yeah, they're all a little bit rowdy when they're pups. But I decided to take him to obedience training. Now, the school that I went to came highly recommended. The trainer at the academy trained police dogs. He trained army dogs, narcotics dogs, bomb detection dogs, personal protection dogs. Like you name it, he was training all of those dogs. And when I went, I got so much more than I bargained for, because he gave me some really good life lessons. And the one thing that I admire about him, his name was Chris. The one thing I admired about Chris was he was in his early 40s, black man from Guyana, took really good care of himself, was in shape, and he was so passionate about dogs. He could talk to you for days on end about dogs. Now, that's also a really good telling sign about, seeing what you're passionate about. Is there something that you could spend, 24 hours just geeking out about and talking up and down with, another nerd in that respective space about a topic? Is there something that you like so much that you could talk about 24/7 with somebody else who is as engaged with you on that topic? It's a good way to figure out your passion. So Chris loved dogs. I love dogs too. And going to the obedience school, I was able to interact with, a variety of different owners. Everybody loved their dogs, but I got to just meet so many different breeds that I've only seen in pictures, breeds I've never even heard about. And just being able to be in the presence of seeing Chris interact with not only the people, but interact with the animals, it drew me to the academy more, and it drew me to him. And there was one day where I came in for my session, and usually there's always a good bit of people there doing a variety of different activities. The compound is pretty big. But on this particular day, I went there and it was only myself, Chris, and one other dog owner. And it just so happened that my session was coming right after a personal protection session. And so I got to see the exercises that they do to train dogs for personal protection up close and personal. And boy, oh boy, was it intense. It was intense. There was just a lot happening, and I was so engulfed with what was going on. And I think in that moment, because there was nobody else there was no other distractions, I just got to see a level of passion oozing from Chris. Like, you could tell, like, of all the activities that he does with dogs, personal protection was like his favorite, right? And part of that was because the majority of the people that came in for personal protection with their dogs were women. So it meant more to him because he knew that getting these dogs trained would give these women more safety in Toronto. These dogs could potentially help save their lives from an intruder or, someone trying to attack them on the streets or what have you, right? But there was just a level of passion that came from the personal protection, especially when dealing with women, because he knew that these dogs represented safety for the women. And so seeing that, I loved it, right? So after the session, we did my session. My session happened. We did our training, and then he had a break after. But during that break, we sat down and we just chopped it up. We just talked, and I was asking him, how did you get into dog training? Like, who wakes up and says, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a dog trainer. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to build this academy. I want to do personal protection. I want to train bomb dogs, army." Like, who wakes up and says that's the goal, right? So I was really interested. So I asked him, like, how did you get into this? And he told me that he definitely didn't see himself as a dog trainer. As a matter of fact, he was in construction. He was a contractor. He worked for a couple of companies, and he's like, he made really, really good money, but he absolutely hated the job. He's like, listen, there is nothing worse than waking up at 3:00 in the morning to go and meet up with the construction crew on these bitter cold Canadian mornings at 4:00 in the morning to head out somewhere in the blistering cold, freezing your tail off. He just wasn't feeling it. But I mean, the money was good. He was an immigrant. He migrated from Guyana. The job was good. The majority of his family lived back in Guyana. So this was, he at the time he felt like he had no choice, but he hated the job. So he's like, one day, after a couple of years, he just started to get tired and more tired of the job, and it started to show. So there was one day he went into the lunchroom, and one of the elder guys that he worked to kind of seen him, and he was just looking out of it. Usually he's, pretty upbeat, always laughs, he's always smiling, but he's like, one day he was in the lunchroom eating his lunch, and he just probably looked, out of it because one of the older guys came over and was like, what's going on? Talk to me. And he was just like, honestly, man, I'm over it. I'm no longer mentally here with this job. This job is draining me. And he doesn't know how much longer he can do it. So the older guy was like, well, that's understandable. Everybody has to kind of find their thing, but this is what I want you to do for me. I want you to take the next week, right? Take the next week and get yourself a little notebook. And every single day, I want you to write down 5 things that you would want to do, that you are interested in, passionate about. He's like, or even something that you would even think about doing. He's like, just get yourself a nice, long, healthy list. Give yourself 7 days, and every day write down 5 things. Things that you're really passionate about, things that you have some interest in, or things that you might be able to see yourself doing. And come up with that list. At the end of the week, right? That's your cutoff time. 7 days is your cutoff time. Otherwise, you probably just keep on going, right? So after 7 days, he's like, I want you every single day to look at that list. Every day, look at that list. And I want you to cross off something from that list that you could never see yourself doing, or when you look at it, it doesn't excite you or ignite something in you. He's like, so just look at the list every day, look at what is on that list, and cross off one thing, and take your time going through, because you really need to look at the list. You need to think about it. You need to search yourself, see how you feel when you go through that list, and cross off one thing every single day. He's like, keep on doing that until you get to the last 3 things on that list. When you get to the last 3 items on that list, he's like, I want you to research every single thing about each of those interests or passions. Research every single thing you can about them, in terms of, the business, in terms of how you feel about it, the feasibility. Search yourself to see how you would enjoy doing these things. And scrutinize those last 3 things. Don't just gloss over it. Just really scrutinize them, right? And then cross them off one by one. After you've done your research, cross them off to see, which ones, you can't see yourself doing, until you get to the last thing. And that last thing should be, what really excites you, what you have immersed yourself in terms of research. It needs to excite you. It needs to ignite something in you, something that you could see yourself doing, and something that you could see yourself turning into a business. So Chris did that list. He said it took him some weeks. And the last thing that was on that list was dog training. He's like, he's always had a passion and a love for animals. He had 2 German Shepherds himself, and he just loved spending his time with his dogs. And as much as he loved having them as pets, he just never considered it turning it into a business, because he didn't know that it was really a thing. But going through the research, he got to see all of these different opportunities, the different ways that people are building businesses around animals, the different opportunities. And he got to see where he would like to play in. And when he did that, when he did the research and he did the exercise, and he started to learn about, all the different use case scenarios of working dogs, the narcotics, bomb detection dogs, personal protection, the army dogs. He's like, this is really interesting stuff. And the whole psychology of training dogs, and also having to train people, because just as much as you can train the dog, you also have to train people. And sometimes training people has nothing to do with the animal. There are just some people that, are going through their own stuff, that he has to work with them in order for them to get out of whatever they're going through, in order to even work with the dog. So there was so many different aspects of it that he loved. And he decided, what? He was going to leave his well-paying job. He saved up a little bit of money. Nothing too crazy, because he couldn't take it no more. But he's like, hey, I banked a couple paychecks and I quit. And I decided to started to train in becoming a certified master trainer for dogs. And he got to train with some of the top people in Canada for narcotics, bomb detection, personal protection, yada yada yada, the whole shebang. But those things, because of his passion, open up other opportunities for him as well. So because he was a dual citizen and he was making a name for himself up the ranks in Canada with respect to training dogs, the government of Guyana actually reached out to him and they were flying him in to train their police dogs and their army dogs. So he was able to he was able to travel. So he's flying back and forth to Guyana, dealing with the government over there. He is training dogs across Canada. He's getting to work with the different police units across Canada, training their dogs. And he was able to turn something that, he had a love for, but he had no idea that there was a business behind it. He was able to turn that passion into a full-time business, and he was able to turn that passion into something that was generating income for him in a variety of different ways. And so that's an exercise that I want you to do. Take the time to make that list. Give yourself a week. Anything that you guys can think of that you're passionate about, that you have some interest in, you can see yourself doing, make that long list. After the week, cross off, look at it every single day and begin to cross off the things that you cannot see yourself doing. And then when you finally get to the last 3 things on that list, research every single thing you can about those different interests. See how people have turned it into a business already. Look at the different opportunities, right? Look to see where those communities are in the world. Are they local opportunities? Are they in a different country? Look to see how people are, when you go on Google and you're searching for people to see how they've turned it into a business, really study how they've turned it into a business so you can kind of understand, what is available to you and what you can kind of implement for yourself. You want to do that as a part of your research, right? In order to find where those communities are in the globe, this is going to be a part of your research. So when you get down to those final 3 things, I want you to go on Google and I want you to search a tool called Google Trends. Google Trends. That's Trends. Google Trends. And what I want you to do is type in that profession or type in that passion into Google Trends. And what will happen is it'll come up with a worldwide map to show you, hey, these are the countries that are searching for this particular passion. Now, if I know that dog training isn't big in my country, so like I'm in Trinidad, dog training, obedience training isn't really a big thing here. So if I wanted to jump into that business, it might not be the easiest thing to really do. There would be a lot of work that I would have to put into it, but dogs live outside. It's different from back in Canada where dogs live inside. So, that dog needs to have some basic obedience because they're inside and, an untrained dog is going to be stress on them and definitely stress on the people who will in turn stress out the dog and more behavioral problems can happen, right? So you can look to see, you could jump on Google Trends, you could see, where in the world is actively searching on Google for this particular passion. And then that's going to give you an idea as to where some of these markets are for your passion. And then from there, you can start to research. So if I know that Canada is big on dog training, I could start to research, what is happening within the dog training industry in Canada that's making it so big. I could look at the opportunities. I could start to look to see, are there any opportunities for me digitally that I can get myself involved in from here and service that particular market, Or is it something that, I have to physically be there? And if I want to physically be there, is there travel opportunities or do I have to actually live there full time to be able to do it? So there's a variety of ways to kind of go about looking at it, but at least you have a bit of a starting point so that you can begin to go down that rabbit hole. All right. Another thing you can start to do as a part of your research is jump on Facebook, search on Facebook for that particular passion, and start looking for Facebook groups in your respective niche. Start joining the communities, because now you're going to be able to interact with people who are as passionate as you are about that particular topic. And that group is also going to be people who would, engage with you. They would consume your content. If you start putting out content in that respective space, it's going to be a place for you to learn as much as possible about your respective niche. So jump on Facebook groups, find people that are in that respective niche. Start to engage with them, start to learn from them, meet people, take notice as to, where they're coming from. And again, that will just help you dial in to see, where those particular markets are. Another thing you can do to tap into your respective niche and passion and to see where the markets are is you can go on social media. So most importantly, you could do this for like LinkedIn. You could do this for Instagram. Is start to follow the hashtags. Jump on Instagram, jump on LinkedIn, type in some of the hashtags for your respective niche. I could type in hashtag dog training, and I could see all of the people that are posting to dog training. I could start to look at who are the influencers within that space. I could see what the conversations are about that space. I would do this and typically start to look for what are the problems that people are facing within that respective industry. And are the problems that they are speaking about, is there an opportunity gap for me? Is there something that I can do that would solve that problem for this respective space? So if I'm into dogs, if I have a passion for dogs, and maybe I can't do dog training here in Trinidad, but if I'm looking through the hashtags, if I'm looking through the Facebook groups, and I keep seeing a popular theme coming up about raw diets and people struggling to get raw diets for their dogs. Dogs have allergies, they have sensitive skin, they have sensitive stomachs, and a lot of the issues that dogs go through can be treated with raw diets. So if I see that this may be an opportunity gap for me, then maybe there is a way that I could create a raw diet line, and I could start to export to people in whichever part of the world. I could create those meals here and ship those meals out. Maybe I can create some ebooks and teach people about different recipes to cook particular raw food diets. And I could specialize in raw food diets for different types of issues that dogs face. And I could be known in my space as the raw food dog diet guy. And there would be there would be opportunities for me to create digital products, and there would be opportunities for me to create physical products that I can now export out to people anywhere in the world. And again, that's just by, going on social media, following the hashtags, jumping in Facebook groups, and trying to analyze, what are some of the common problems that people in the respective space that I'm looking to get into, what are some of the common problems that they are facing? And that's going to be all a part of my research to say, okay, you know what? I'm down to the last 3 things on my list. Here are, some of the issues that each of these groups in my last 3 passions, here are some of the issues that each of these people are facing. And you know what? I think this particular issue in this passion is something that I'm really interested in, and it's something that I feel like I can do. So you know what? Let me start to do some intense homework and figure out how I can solve that problem for that respective group. If you can base your business, whatever the business is, if you can base your business on solving a pain point, you will always be in business just as long as you can deliver the product consistently and at a good price for the value that you're offering. You will always be in business if you can deliver that product or service consistently and your cost to value ratio is good, meaning that what people are going to pay you is in line with the value that you are offering. You will always be in business. The second thing you could kind of look at is providing escapism in that respective space. Now, to me, this is my personal belief. I find that when you provide escapism is good. Escapism is sexy. Think comedy. Think TV. Escapism can be really powerful. It can be sexy. But the staying power with escapism is really where it gets tricky. My personal belief is that when you can solve pain points for people, there is longevity in it. And it's not as sexy to solve for the pain points as, creating escapism and making people laugh and making people forget about, what they're going through. But if you can solve a pain point, I believe that you have a much better chance of being in business long-term than providing escapism, even though escapism is extremely powerful. But again, that's my personal view. So I would definitely encourage you to constantly look for the pain points that people are having within respective spaces that you yourself are passionate about. Because when you decide to show up for that industry, people can see the passion. Also, if you're doing it within a space that you love, it makes it so much easier for you to wake up every day and be able to show up for that respective space and commit to doing the things that you need to do in order to grow a successful business. At the time of recording this podcast, I had gotten up at 6 o'clock in the morning, had my breakfast and kind of planned out the different talking points that I want and jumped on here by 7 a.m. and I'm shooting it, right? Now, if I did not care about online business, digital entrepreneurship for Caribbean entrepreneurs and business owners, then I was not going to do this. I might have done this, when it felt a bit more comfortable for me to do it. Right? It might not have been a pressing need to, hey, I need to get this done because this is something that I really want to do. This is something I know that can help people. So really diving into your passion and learning how to identify the pain points that people are having in those respective spaces will be all the difference for you when you having to show up. And to me, again, my personal view is when you can solve people's pain points, there is longevity in that. Another thing that you need to do, so after you have figured out your passion, you've done your homework, and you have decided to dive into this, you decide to take the leap, you want to jump off that cliff, whether it's you're doing this full-time or whether you are still keeping your full-time job and you are going to start this off as a side business or a little bit of a project. If you are able to, live off of your full-time income, there's no pressure to get this business started off, in a hurry. You could take your time to really learn it and grow it at your pace. The thing that you need to do is you need to immerse yourself into the skill set or the passion. You need to live, eat, and breathe whatever you are diving into. You can't half-ass it. So if I am deciding that, the pain point that I want to solve in the space that I want to play in is I want to be known as the raw food diet for dog guy, then I need to immerse myself in dogs. I need to learn about dogs. I need to learn about the different allergies. I need to learn about all the symptoms that a raw food diet solves or can treat and give dogs a more comfortable life, and in turn, give the owners the peace of mind that their dogs are healthy, the dogs are happy, so they can continue having their loving relationship with their companions, and both of them are living in harmony. And remember, people have pets to help with their own mental health, right? So if if I got this dog to help with my own mental health, we're in the pandemic, animals are really good company to aid with that stress. If my dog, the person the animal that I got to help me with my own mental health is struggling to stay alive, that's only going to be stress on me too, right? So there's so many ways to kind of look at the problem that you are solving. There's the element for the animals, but then there's the element for the humans as well. You need to immerse yourself in all facets as to what the problem that you are trying to solve, who it affects, and how you're going to be able to help all parties involved. And you can turn that into a business. So immerse yourself into that skill set, immerse yourself into the passion, become super knowledgeable about that respective space. You want to be able to get to the point where when you go to a function or a family dinner and somebody says, "Hey, Karen, what do you do? What do you do? Talk to me. What are you up to these days?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm selling raw food diets for dogs." And people are like, "What? Why? How? What? Raw food for dogs? Yeah, to treat with their allergies, their symptoms, da da da." And people can feel the energy oozing from you, that they become intrigued. And before you know it, they're asking questions about, why this is even a thing and why this is even a problem. And if you have the required knowledge, you're going to be able to talk to that person until they're sick. And that might be, after 60 minutes or 2 hours, you might have just been there talking all about dogs and what's going on with them. And because of your intensity, because of your passion towards the subject, that person who might not have ever cared about dogs, as more intrigued simply because of your energy and your passion towards it. That has just caused them now to ask a heck of a lot more questions. And they have a nice learning session and you guys continue on, all right? So you want to be able to get to that point where you're so immersed and you become so knowledgeable about the space that you can speak to somebody for an hour about that topic. The next thing you really want to do, and this is where it gets really critical. So you've done the research. So you made the list of your passions. You decided, which one you're going to jump off the cliff and dive into. You've done the research. You figured out the problem that you want to solve. You start to see what type of product or service that you want to offer to that respective space. The next thing you need to do, and one of the most important things that you need to do, is you need to build a platform around your passion. You need to build a platform around your passion. So the platform can come in a variety of different ways. You can build a website educating people on the problems and the solutions. And the website doesn't need to be fancy. You could start off with just jumping on Wix. Jump on anything that helps you get started. Jump on something like a Wix. You could start a blog just teaching people about the problem and the solution. If you don't want to start a website, you could start something. You can start writing on blogger.com. Oh my God. And there's another one. And it's like the name escapes me and it's gonna come to me as soon as I come off of this podcast. But you could just start writing on social media. You could, take out some accounts, open up some accounts that will allow you to speak about the problem and solution that you're facing. And the more you can do that, the more you can create content around the problem and your solution, and people can look at you and say, "Oh wow, this person is really knowledgeable about this respective space. I need to follow this person for tips and tricks." That's how you start to build that community. And I just remembered the other platform I was going to say. If you don't want to start with the website, you can jump on medium.com, create an account on medium.com, and you can start to write about your problems within the respective space and the solution. And then you could share those articles onto social media so that people who are experiencing those shared problems can find you and start to come to your platforms as a source of knowledge. So build a platform around your passion. So you could start with the website, or you could jump on medium.com. You could open up social media accounts and put out tips and tricks, educate people about the problems and the solutions, create that platform for people to be able to come to you and, follow you and learn from you. You can also create an email newsletter, so get people to subscribe. You can open up a free MailChimp account, let people subscribe to the MailChimp account, and you could send out daily emails or daily newsletters, again, educating people on the problems and the solutions. People are going to be more engaged. They're going to start to reach out to you. They're going to ask you questions. And the more you're able to create that space for people to come to you, and people to look at you as the thought leader in this space, it allows you now to transition people from follower and into customer. Because this is what's going to happen. The minute people view you as a thought leader and you are educating them about raw foods for dogs, the more you can enlighten people about the problem, the next question they're going to ask you was, how do I purchase the solution? Where can I go to buy the dog foods? Where can I learn to create my own dog foods? And it's in those questions that you will start to see what types of products and services you could create. Because maybe you're just starting off with just the education. Maybe you're just starting off blogging and you haven't really figured out the business model as yet. But I promise you, if you just start to educate people on the problem and the solutions, people's natural next step is to ask, how can they purchase? Where can they purchase? Or how can they do this? Or how? And all of those questions that you're going to get are products and services that you can now create to generate an income. And there's so many ways to go about, creating a product or service. Some of the products and services you can create, or you can sell other people's products and services. So for example, if I have this blog and I'm telling people about raw food diets, but you know what? Maybe I'm not in a position to purchase raw food and start to make it myself and then start to export. What I could do is I could start to organize ways for people to get either the product or get the knowledge. So 2 examples. I can source people who are creating the raw food diets, and I could organize something like affiliate marketing where I can get their links to their products and earn commission recommending their products and services to people. So when I'm blogging about, the dog's sensitive stomach, and I recommend, hey, this company's raw food, this particular formula, this is great to treat with that or whatever. When people ask, okay, well, how can I get it? In your blog, you could include the link to the product. And when people click it and purchase it, you earn a commission. And there are people who are making millions of dollars off of affiliate marketing. Right? That's a great way to earn income. All the while you just have this blog and you're educating people about it, and it can be done in your spare time. The other thing that you can do outside of affiliate links is, let's just say, people want to learn about how to create it themselves. Well, you can be the one to organize the events for people to come and learn about it. So you create the space. You might not be the chef to create the formulas, but guess what? You've networked with the right people who are creating the formulas, and you could organize a paid event and tell people, hey, this webinar is $50, 50 US, whatever, to come to this webinar. And we have world-renowned dog chef Mario Pirelli coming in to teach us how to cook, 2 different meals for raw food diets to treat with these 2 specific symptoms that dogs are having. And again, you're niching down, you're getting specific. That way people can say, oh, wow, my dog has, irritable bowel syndrome or he has a wheat allergy. And this platform is bringing in this chef to teach us how to make our own meals. Of course, I'm paying for that. And you now can make money off of being the organizer because you're creating the space. You're bringing everybody together. You're bringing in the experts and you're also bringing in the clientele. Everybody wins. The people get the knowledge. The chef also builds their brand. They're probably also getting paid because you're going to cut them in on some of the funds. So they're getting paid. They're building their brand and they get to interact directly with their clients, which in turn can also, he'd be able to sell some of his other products and services to those people as well. So those are two different examples of how you can monetize off of building your platform around your passion. I hope that you guys got some good gems from this episode of being able to take your passion and turning into a business. When I started Droid Island, that's exactly what I did. I started with just a blog. There was no e-commerce attached to it, no nothing. All I was doing was I was passionate about smartphones. I realized the problems that, people were having here in the country of Trinidad and Tobago. And I started to create content that directly spoke to the problems that they were having. And the more I spoke to those problems, the bigger my platform grew. And people would start to reach out to me and say, hey, you spoke about how I could use one phone for personal and business and I no longer need two phones. Well, what phones do that? And I could have either, used Amazon affiliates and started to, make commission off of recommending products that Amazon offers, because Amazon does have the biggest affiliate marketing network. I went the other route. I decided to source the products from suppliers. So I found suppliers. I started to source the products and I started to drop ship the products to the people, meaning that I created my website. People would come, they would order the products on my website. Once the orders came in, I would then go to my suppliers, bring those devices in and have them delivered directly to my consumers. That way, I did not need to stock the products. So in the beginning, when I first started out from the blog, I ended up going into retail, but I only had the retail store for about 6 months before I decided to go full-time into being a content creator and learning how to change my website into an e-commerce platform. And then from there, I started to drop ship the products. And that changed everything for me, because with the physical brick and mortar store, I had to pay rent. I had to pay electricity. I had to service the ACs. People had to physically come to my store in order to purchase the products. And it cost a lot of money because I had to stock the store. I had to buy the products up front, stock the store, and, get people to come in. So it was very capital intensive. The minute I moved into content creation and build the e-commerce platform, my expenses went next to none, because the only expense that I had was I just had to pay my internet bill and my web hosting fee. And my web hosting fee is $5 a month. So I'm paying my internet bill, I'm paying my $5 a month, but I'm creating content, I'm creating blogs, educating about the problems and offering the solutions. People go on the website, they make the purchases, and because I'm drop shipping it, I get my profit up front when people make their payments. And then I bring in the products and have it delivered to the clientele. Remember, we're in the digital space. People are accustomed to ordering online and waiting 2 to 3 weeks. Well, if you're in the Caribbean, because we don't have, next day air like the folks in the US and Canada and the UK, but in the Caribbean, we're accustomed to waiting 2 to 3 weeks for a product to come in. So it's, as long as you can build that platform and gain the trust of your audience, they're going to come on your platform and they're willing to wait 2 to 3 weeks like they would for Amazon, because you've built that trust. You have shown that you are the expert, the person that they want to deal with. You are the person that is going to solve their particular problem and deliver that product or service. And that is how I was able to, switch from, the brick and mortar where my expenses was like, man, my store expenses alone was a minimum of $10,000 a month. And then that's not even buying the products and all of that hassle that I had to go through. And that shifted to, again, just paying for my paying for my internet connection and also my web hosting fees. And my business expenses came, extremely small. And then I was able to just create more content, grow my platform, and, become profitable and earn some good money doing that. So folks, if this episode gave you some gems, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear your feedback. This brings us to the end of episode number 3. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to share the podcast, because this episode may be what helps one of your friends or family solve some of the problems that they may be going through. This may be the information that they need to change the trajectory of their own life. So please, if you know somebody that, that could benefit from this, definitely give them a share. Please, the reviews, the ratings, those things help me grow the platform. So again, I can continue to come out here, offer you guys some really good content to help us, the Caribbean region, the Caribbean entrepreneurs and business owners, grow through the digital age. I look forward to connecting with you. You guys can follow me on social media. I'm on every single social media platform at Karen Rose. You guys could even just Google me, Karen Rose, and you guys can see all the different things that I'm involved in, and also check me out on KarenRose.com. The Digipreneur.fm website was going to be launched tonight, June 23rd. I'm going to be hosting a live event to kind of reveal the website. And again, that's just another platform for you guys to be able to learn more about the podcast, more helpful tips, tricks, strategies from myself and other Caribbean entrepreneurs that are going to be on the podcast to help you navigate the digital age. So folks, that is it from me. Thanks again for tuning in. You have yourself a wonderful day. Take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Karan Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Karan Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.